Start with the State of the Union.
Yep.
So a lot of that yesterday was the president's effort to try to be conciliatory towards the Republican Party, and the press release you put out last night seems to label it a failure. Do you think that his efforts to reach out to the Republican Party are disingenuous?
I do. I think that when you go back and you look at the past year and the efforts by the leadership in the House and Senate, the letters of invitation by the members to sit down with the president, the offers to help draft and craft part of the health care bill or any other legislation that the president had of interest. Certainly the work that we've done working with the president on matters of national security. The Republican Party and certainly the Republican leadership has been, or at least tried to be, at the table with this administration on a number of fronts, and yet at every turn they've been rebuffed. Their bills have been rejected in committee or on the House or Senate floor. Their letters have not been returned. Their calls for meeting with the president have been met with silence. And so I think that from the standpoint of watching last night, you have to scratch your head and go, oh, so now you want to do bipartisanship? Mm-hmm. It's just disingenuous. What I saw last night, and I think what a lot of Americans saw last night, was the president hitting the reset button on his agenda and on the strategies for his administration. That's not leadership. That's not, I think, an effective way to convince us that he actually has a plan to move forward on the economy, a plan to move forward on health care. That's a signature issue, but yet he doesn't talk about it until almost halfway through the speech. And certainly his plan to move forward on things like national security and job creation. Okay,
well, you say that the Republicans need a seat at the table, but what would Republicans do with the seat at the table? I mean, it seems like the GOP has everything to gain from continuing to be obstructionist. And
I disagree with that. I don't think they do. I think they, and I know the leadership appreciates this, and it's not their intent to sort of sit back and kind of wait for all the spoils to roll to them because people are mad at the Obama administration. That would be a foolhardy route to take. I think certainly having a seat at the table enables, even if we don't have a seat at the table, quite frankly, the leadership is prepared to go out and lay out an agenda on health care, lay out an agenda on job creation, lay out an agenda on national security issues.
But you see, like, having a seat at the table means some degree of compromise, which the Republican Party doesn't seem to be in the mood to do right now.
I think, again, you're assuming that the Democrats do want to compromise.
Well, if there's a seat at the table.
Look, having a seat at the table is a metaphor for a lot of things. Okay. You don't necessarily need to be in the room to get something done. If I'm on the House floor or on a subcommittee and I introduce a bill, that's having a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. If that bill is then marshaled through the legislative process in a way in which it's going to be given due consideration and a favorable or an unfavorable vote, an up or down vote. That process has not happened in a way to engender the kind of idea of partisanship or having a seat at the table and compromise. A lot of people look at the Republican Party as if we're, in the Senate we're 50-50, and in the House we're, 5 or 6 seats away from taking the House. The Democrats have the numbers, they have the energy, they have the agenda, and yet they can't get it done. Why? Because it's not what the American people want. The Republican leadership in both chambers and certainly outside of the Congress have tried diligently to express in clear terms where we are in things like health care, for small business pools and portability and tort reform, on job creation, cutting capital gains, eliminating it, cutting the unemployment tax, creating incentives for small business owners to get greater access to capital and credit and take the risks for job creation. So there are a number of things that have been out there that just haven't either been covered by the media because, well, why would we do anything to upset the president's agenda that way, or stalled or stymied in the House and the Senate. Again, why would we accept a bipartisan solution to our agenda when we feel it undermines exactly what our goals are?
Okay, quick last question. Yep. We over at FrumForum have been very big fans of you since day one.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because we think that you support a big tent philosophy. But reading your book, your recent book, there's a passage that I want to ask you quickly about.
Sure.
That's the one about Specter, where you basically cheered him leaving the party.
Because he was
saying good riddance.
Because he was disingenuous. He was a political opportunist. He looked at the numbers and saw he couldn't get reelected, and instead of standing on the principles that he said that he believed in, he decided it was easier, just as he did to become a Republican when he couldn't get elected as a Democrat, to cut and run. And that's not helping the party. That's not growing the party.
Right, but pragmatically, I guess the efforts of Toomey to push him out of the party.
I don't assume, nor do I accept that Pat Toomey's efforts were to push Specter out of the party. Arlen Specter's a grown man who has his own views and his own opinions. Right. And if he's not prepared to stand in the well of public opinion and confront those opinions and confront his own views, that's on him. That's not on anyone else. I can't push you out of anything. I can only invite you in. If you want to come in, you'll come in. And if you want to leave, you will leave. And that was a choice made by Arlen Specter because he calculated that he could not get reelected through a Republican primary. And I think, again, to the extent that individuals feel that on principle they can't stand with us, that's one thing. But when they see political opportunism not working to their advantage, that's something very different for me.
Okay, thank you.